Hello, my name is Alexander Kiri. You're watching UATV News in English. This is the latest news from Ukraine and around the world. Now, first this hour, as of 12 p.m., voter turnout in the snap parliamentary elections to the Verkhovna Rada stands at 19%. This is reported on the website of the Central Election Commission of Ukraine. Voters in the Luhansk region have been most active as of now, almost 27% voter turnout. The smallest turnout so far is in the Volodymyr region, a little over 12%. Out of the nearly 30,000 polling stations, only 27 opened with insignificant delays. Voting is continuing and we'll keep you updated. And voter turnout is not expected to be as high as it was during the presidential election this spring. In part, this is because many people are on summer holidays. Our correspondents have been talking to voters throughout the country. Let's listen to what some of them had to say about the election.
I'll vote during lunchtime. I found out where it is. It's such a responsible time right now. Everyone must be very vigilant if we want changes. First, I went to church, prayed for everything to be well, so that I and all Ukrainians would make the right choice. I hope it will be so. I'm optimistic and hopeful. Of course, I came with the faith that our voices will give us the opportunity to solve this complicated situation that we have now.
Any normal person, first of all, wants peace and then for the standard of living to improve.
Peace comes before all, and of course Ukraine's economic growth, so that our country will be stable and confident in its future again. We're in a great mood. We're hoping for the better, that everything will be well.
I want the war to end so that people can live in peace, and we'll see what they do next.
And President Volodymyr Zelensky also cast his ballot this afternoon. The president voted at polling stations 489 at the College of the Sea and River Fleet here in Kiev. Let's watch.
It has to be new faces. To be honest, we can't see ourselves in a coalition with anyone from the old administration. That's the only way. But we don't yet know which parties will be elected to the parliament. So we'll make a decision after the results are in.
And now let's see what will be on the agenda of the newly elected Verkhovna Rada. Among the thousands of bills submitted, which should be priorities? Our correspondent spoke to experts who explained how the Verkhovna Rada should work most effectively.
5,413 bills are waiting to be considered by Ukrainian parliamentary committees. Experts suggest that the upcoming ninth convocation start its work by reducing the number.
Minimum 3,000 to 4,000 bills could be skipped, since it takes time. The time of committees and the Verkhovna Rada is used inefficiently. Some of the submitted bills aren't relevant or useful.
According to experts, ensuring the work of the anti-corruption court should be among the first tasks on the agenda. The institution will be officially launched on September 5th, but it already has a lot of cases to consider. The workload could be reduced by adopting some legislative amendments.
There's a bill which was submitted by the President, which limits the amount of these cases and sends the cases which are investigated by the National Anti-Corruption Bureau and the Specialized Anti-Corruption Prosecutor's Office to the Anti-Corruption Court. Without adopting additional legislation, more than 3,950 cases would have to be accepted. It's a lot for the number of judges that we have now.
The Parliamentary Foreign Affairs Committee is responsible for cooperation with the UN, the European Council, NATO, the World Trade Organization, and other international institutions. During its term of office, it has ratified free trade agreements with Canada and Israel, and terminated the Russian-Ukrainian Friendship Treaty. MP Hanna Hopko believes that it's important for the new convocation to continue Ukraine's European course.
Assertive foreign policy and the course for the European Union and NATO must continue, as well as the issues of national identity. We worked with the Bundestag regarding Germany's historical responsibility before Ukraine and recognizing the Holodomor as a genocide. I hope that the next convocation will work in this direction.
MP Oleksiy Ryabchin says that it's also important to develop the production of energy resources and at the same time work on the program of energy saving.
Верховна Рада стала одним з перших парламентів в світі, який ратифікував, наприклад, Паризьку кліматичну угоду.
The Verkhovna Rada, for example, became one of the first parliaments in the world to ratify the Paris Climate Agreement. We made it so that electric cars are the cheapest in Ukraine, but we need to add to energy efficiency to reduce the use of foreign fuel, diesel, gas, and for this money to stay here in Ukraine.
Some find it important to remember social bills, especially considering the number of service people returning from the front line.
щоб були створені мультидисциплінарні бригади.
It's necessary to create multidisciplinary brigades, teams of doctors dealing with rehabilitation. For example, after surgeries. We need to engage health resorts with unique natural resources, which simply aren't used.
Lawyer Edward Bahirov says it's also important to protect soldiers' rights.
Unfortunately, Ukraine hasn't legally defined the status of military actions with Russia. But anyway, if the parliament ratifies the Rome Statute and Ukraine's claims in international military tribunals and courts, then their decisions, which will state that Ukrainian citizens, service people held captive by Russia, are prisoners of war, it will have legal force.
Due to the lack of the market and the moratorium on the sale of farmland since 2001, the Ukrainian economy annually loses 1% of GDP growth. This amounts to $22.5 billion. The programs of many parties include the promise to lift the ban on selling farmland. Therefore, experts believe it's likely to be done.
There will be serious pressure on Ukraine from international financial organizations, mainly the IMF and the World Bank, because, as we remember, this issue has already been on the agenda of our relations with the IMF, but we didn't get round to dealing with it. I believe that in 2020, lifting the moratorium will be one of Ukraine's conditions for receiving tranches.
The 8th convocation of the Verkhovna Rada adopted 2,726 regulatory documents. Only 982 of them became laws. Reported by Olha Mikhailyuk, UATV.
Next year here in UATV, we have prepared an infographic explaining why the election is taking place now and not on October 27th as originally planned. Let's take a look.
The snap parliamentary elections are being held in Ukraine today. They were announced after the 6th president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, took office. On May the 20th, during his inauguration speech in parliament, he announced that he was dissolving the 8th convocation of the Verkhovna Rada of Ukraine. The very next day, after consulting with the leaders of the parliamentary factions, the president signed a decree on the dissolution of the Verkhovna Rada and set the day for the snap election, July the 21st, 2019. According to the president, the legal basis for this was the absence of the parliamentary coalition since 2016, as well as the low level of citizens' trust in the institution. The survey done by the Razumkov Center in February showed that the level of Ukrainians' confidence in the parliament did not exceed 12%. Their colleagues from the Kyiv International Institute of Sociology conducted their own survey in December. Their result was 8%. According to the Constitution, snap parliamentary elections are held within 60 days from the date of the publication of the decision on early dissolution of the parliament. The current legislation on elections of Ukraine states that the parliament is elected using a mixed electoral system. Half of the candidates are chosen from the closed party lists, the other half from the constituencies. The entry barrier is 5% of the votes. The parliament consists of 450 MPs. However, back in 2014, after Russia annexed Crimea and began the aggression in eastern Ukraine, part of the single-member districts were occupied. These are 10 districts in Crimea and 2 in Sevastopol, 9 districts in the Donetsk region, 6 districts in the Luhansk region. In 2019, 424 deputies will be elected to the Verkhovna Rada. The number of registered candidates is hundreds of times more, 5,984. There are 22 parties running for parliament in the nationwide multi-member constituencies. They have 2,746 people in their lists. As for 199 single-member districts, 3,220 candidates are running there. 1,447 people were nominated by political parties, 1,773 persons are self-nominees. On average, the competition is 13 people per seat. The numbers on the list were determined by drawing lots. Ballot papers for single-member constituencies differ depending on the number of candidates. Up to 6 candidates, 20 by 20 centimeters, up to 11 candidates, 20 by 30 centimeters, up to 18 candidates, 20 by 40 centimeters, up to 33 candidates, 20 by 60 centimeters, up to 50 candidates, 20 by 80 centimeters, and the longest up to 60 candidates, 20 by 90 centimeters. The shortest list in a constituency in the city of Khmelnytsky features 5 candidates. The longest one consists of 46 names. In single-member districts, the candidate who receives the most votes wins. If 2 candidates get the same amount of votes, the second round of voting is held. It should take place no later than 2 weeks after the Central Election Commission decides that the second round is necessary. The Central Election Commission needs to announce the official results of the election no later than on the 15th day after the voting by August the 5th. By August the 10th, the results should be published in the official press. According to the Constitution, the Parliament should hold its first session no later than on the 30th day after the results of the election are officially announced, which is by September the 9th, 2019. However, according to the President's party, it's planned to hold the session in August. It may take place on August the 24th and be dedicated to Ukraine's Independence Day.
Approximately 60 observers from the OSCE Parliamentary Assembly have come to Ukraine for the parliamentary election. They are monitoring voting in Kyiv, Odessa, Lviv, Kharkiv and Mariupol. We have received a comment from Albert Johnson, the head of the OSCE Election Observation Mission. Let's take a listen.
Yes, our mission makes a comprehensive assessment of the whole electoral process. So we have been here, the core team and so-called long-term observers out in the regions for several weeks to work on that. And after the election, we actually stay on until the beginning of August to monitor the post-election period. But of course, election day is a culmination of the process. So because of that, we got big reinforcements last week, many hundreds of additional observers. So today, on election day, we have more than 800 observers deployed across the country. That is the international election observation team that I head.
Now, overall, 1,700 observers are in Ukraine for the parliamentary elections. They have a crucial task before them to report on electoral fraud and monitor the democratic process. UATV's Natalia Chekotun filed this report on their work.
1,719 observers from around the world have been tasked with monitoring the snap parliamentary elections in Ukraine. This is key in ensuring election integrity.
The OSCE traditionally deployed the largest number of observers, that is more than 700 people. If we are talking about observers from foreign states, the leader is the USA. It deployed 42 people to monitor the election.
The United States is just one out of 12 countries that take part in the monitoring missions. There are also representatives from Japan, Poland, Hungary, Spain and Belgium. 17 Russians in turn were denied to monitor the election campaign as part of the OSCE mission. This is due to Russia's aggression in eastern Ukraine. Some international organizations also deployed their mission to Donbass. Among them is the European Network of Election Monitoring Organizations.
We have one team of long-term observers which is deployed in Donetsk and Lugansk Oblast and who are monitoring as close as they can to the contact line, but we give them very specific security guidelines to stay safe.
All of those observers have experience working in war-torn countries. Their main aim is to assess the electoral process and to advance democracy and international peace. Canadam, a non-for-profit NGO, has been promoting this process since 2004, with nearly 2,000 election observers mobilized to Ukraine for 11 elections.
There are 50 long-term observers that have been in Ukraine for quite a number of weeks already, and of them there is a core team in our Kyiv office and analysts. They're not just in the main city of the oblast, they're in some of the smaller regions of the oblast as well.
We're not here to make an outcome. That's up to the voters and the citizens of Ukraine. But what we can help do is help set a framework which gives them assurance that it's going to be an open and fair system.
Following the elections, a range of organizations will issue their preliminary statements with initial assessments and recommendations for the future. Natalia Chekotun, UATV.
And that's all we have for you this hour, but I'll leave the studio to my colleague Antonina Antosha, who is going to interview Vita Dumanska, the coordinator of the anti-corruption watchdog called Chesno. Make sure to stay tuned on UATV to know more about the parliamentary elections currently underway in Ukraine. And for more information, you can check our official website, uatv.ua. Thank you for watching UATV News in English. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. See you in 2 hours.